Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course, and today we are going to take a look at the Algier. Yes, it was requested, and played a few battles, and I managed to get a battle that is decent enough. But more importantly, while playing those battles, learned a few things about the old Algier here that I will share with you. So you can see from matchmaking there ever so quickly that it was actually quite good for us. I'm grouped up with Rommel today, and we are at tier 7, so not too bad. And that's probably the first mention about the Algier, and really the first mention about any ship you're going to take out at tier 7. You should definitely expect to fight in tier 8 and tier 9 battles. So that is sort of a norm for tier 7. Now, how does the Algier play into that sort of gameplay or meta? Well, the Algier has a pretty great range on her, and we can see it here now on the mini-map, 17 point something kilometers. I wrote some other statistics down about the ship that I was going to bring up during the course of the video here. I was going to be, oh, it sounds so smart, and didn't write that one down. No. So 17 point something. But the point is that the range of the Algier is very good, and the range of the Algier is what really plays into how I'm going to play the ship. And I'm going to play the ship at far range as possible to limit any incoming shells, and this is going to go without saying, is going to apply regardless of what tier I'm playing at. Now, granted, in this battle here at tier 7, I'm going to take a few more chances in the ship itself, and this is generally because I did want to get in a little closer because the situation called for it, and the Algier can do that, and we'll get to that. But you know, generally speaking, you do want to play at range in this ship because the ship itself has 110 millimeters of armor at its strongest point, and in naval terms, that's nothing. Nothing at all. There is no armor on this ship. She cannot take very many, shelled incoming shots at all. If you take a look at the armor layout in your port, you'll note that the citadels and the most important bits of the ship run pretty much the length of the ship, right? They start just at the bottom of the front turret, and they run the length of the ship up to the back or the fourth turret there. So, you know, any shots coming into midships will just basically go right through and citadel you. So you really do not want to expose yourself to any broadsides. Like you can see in this situation here, we're firing off at some ships at distance, right? I am spotted, I am targeted as well, and this is an perfect situation where you really don't want to find yourself in when you're playing the Algier. Now, luckily for me, no one actually fires at me, and obviously, you know, when you're playing your Algier, it's up to you and whether or not you want to take evasive maneuver, but you should always be aware and always watching when someone is targeting you. If someone is targeting you and you don't know which ship it is, you need to start doing some evasive maneuvers. You really need to start avoiding any of these incoming shots. Now, that being said, the Algier and the French cruisers in general have a very peculiar skill in that they get the speed boost, which is basically the same thing that destroyers get. You know, speed boost is going to increase your maximum speed, and it is a tool that is actually quite nice to use when the situation calls for it. Maybe I'm not as aggressive with my use of the max speed or of the speed boost in this battle. But generally speaking, when I am playing my French cruisers, how I use the speed boost is when I'm in a tricky situation and I need to get away as quick as possible. Say, for example, I'm trying to run away from a battleship or an enemy ship that's chasing me down from the stern. I can pop my speed and I can just quickly get out of that situation. Or I'm not paying attention and I've made a turn that is really bad and suddenly I'm exposed to a number of enemy ships. Well, I can pop my speed boost and I can get myself out of that situation quicker than I could if I didn't have the speed boost, right? It's not always going to work for you. It is not the savior, and it's not going to always protect you, but it is there and it is nice. Another thing that it's good for as well is if you're in a position kind of like like where I am now, right? You can see again, playing the Algier at range. I'm not getting in close, and this is really how you want to play the ship. But if you are playing at range like this, you can find yourself in a situation where suddenly you're no longer as effective as you should be. Because you got to keep in mind that playing at range doesn't mean, oh, I'm going to stay a safe distance away from the enemy and only fire at those targets that are available to me. No, 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 no. This is the wrong mindset for range, and I know that it sounds very strange. What you should be doing when you're playing at range is you're not necessarily at your maximum range. You're at a range that you're still able to provide effective support for your allied push. You have to be able to provide that effective support, right? So in this example, and what we're seeing here in this battle, is the enemies are charging the northern point. So I'm playing at range, but that means that I'm going to be in a position where I can fire at these enemies who are charging at the northern point, right? And I want to be in this position. There's no use for me to be far off firing at whatever 17, whatever my range is, off in the back if I'm only able to fire at 1 or 2 ships. Where I am right now, I'm able to fire at a whole bunch of ships, right? And in fact, I do manage to take down an enemy ship, and that was by fire. Which brings me to a compliment point, I guess, about the Algier and playing at range. Your high explosive on your French cruisers is very good. I guess I haven't actually looked at the real damage numbers, so I don't know, which nation has the best HE rounds, and, let me know in the comments below if you know it off the top of your head. But anyway, the HE rounds on your French cruisers, your French ships in general, is good. It's decent. It's nothing, to be discouraged about, I guess. You will be able to light a number of fires, no issue. In fact, one of the missions that's going on with the birthday or the anniversary of ships right now is, the death by Baguette. You get that. And then you get one of those little collectible items, and it goes towards the camo. So I've gotten that a number of times already. It's very easy to get, and it's just a matter of setting fire to enemy ships and getting doing that damage over time, and you'll end up getting it. It's very easy to do, and it's something like the HE rounds really do complement the playstyle of the Algiers and playing at range, playing at range, how I've defined it so far, right? Being able to maintain some sort of effective fire on the enemies where they're pushing and supporting your allies. That's what you really do need to accomplish. So there we go, we managed to take down the enemy Nuremberg, so that's not too bad at all. And you can see that I have used my speed ability while that little firing was going on, because I did find that once that mountain came up, I was no longer able to fire at the enemies who were attacking A, so I wasn't able to provide effective support, so I popped that ability to try and maneuver around so that I can start seeing some of these enemies, right? And I'm using the gaps in between the mountains here, hoping that some of these enemies will pop up. So we did lose A so far in this battle, but no big deal. The Algier is not the ship to lead the charge. You do not want to lead the charge at all in this ship whatsoever. And you might be tricked. In thinking that you might be able to lead the charge, right? Because technically she's a heavy cruiser. She has some heavy cruiser guns on her, and if you load your AP in them, they will do very good damage, especially at close range against enemy cruisers who are broadside to you. That will happen. But what you don't want to, also I guess what's going to play into that is the fact that the ship has torpedoes, and what you don't want to do though is use your torpedoes offensively. They are not an offensive weapon. I've talked about this before when we were looking at Japanese cruisers early in the days of the channel. They're not offensive, right? You shouldn't be setting yourself up to fire torpedoes upon the enemy. What you use your torpedoes for is in like a situation like this where I'm moving in kind of closer to the enemy, right? Because I do have some cover from these mountains. But if suddenly one of these enemies, or if I notice one of these enemies were in my torpedo range, on my way out, I could launch off my torpedoes at an enemy, if that situation arose, right? And that's how I would use my torpedoes. I wouldn't get in close with the idea of I'm going to launch my torpedoes and then get out. Cruisers just cannot do that. It's just not going to happen. A few cruisers that do come to mind as sort of specialty cases would be British cruisers and the Kutuzov, and even, I guess, the Atlanta and the Flint if they have the smoke. Does Atlanta get smoke? I'm not sure. But anyway, and again, the only reason why they're able to do that is because of the smoke. If it wasn't for the smoke, they wouldn't be able to do such things. And so you cannot do that with your Algier or with any of the French cruisers, basically. But anyway, so that's how you would want to use your torpedoes, right? Use them when the situation arises. Don't go in there with the intention of solely using those torpedoes. They're not offensive, they are defensive. You can see once again I am playing at range with my cruiser, right? We can see that we are fighting, or my allies are fighting this enemy coning, so great, it's within my range because I have good range on this cruiser. I'm going to fire in my HE, I'm going to try and do what damage I can, preferably set a fire and get that damage going down. Now we're taking a look at the minimap, right? You can see that I am kind of out of position, right? We are chasing this enemy coning, don't really want to be in this situation too much longer, so I am going to turn my vessel, and you can see once again pop my speed ability, right? So I'm using the speed ability to get myself back into position. You can argue, I guess, the uses of the speed. It can be used offensively and it can be used defensively. In this situation, I guess it's defensively because I'm trying to get myself back into the B cap zone so I can help defend that point, right? The enemies did take A, I think, is the northern point, or B, C rather, is the northern point. Did manage to take C, but whatever. We've got A and B. So far in the Algiers, we've learned that play at range. Right? Make sure that that range, though, does mean that you're able to support your allies. Make sure that if you are spotted and you are targeted, that you know what is spotting and targeting you, and if you don't, then you need to take evasive action right away, because you cannot take any hits. 110 millimeters of armor. You do have torpedoes. Torpedoes go 9 kilometers. They are great. I think it fires 2 or 3 from either side. So not too bad at all. Maybe not be able to take down like an enemy Iowa with all 3, but you're definitely going to do a bunch of damage. But they are defensive, not offensive. Don't go in there with the mindset of I'm going to fire torpedoes off at this ship, or I'm going to set up a run on this ship. You're not a destroyer. You're a cruiser. Even though you can go as fast as a destroyer, because with your speed boost you can see we are making quite good speed here towards A. You're not a destroyer. The detection range of the ship, 13.4. I do not have captain concealment ability, and I don't think this ship can have the concealment module, but if she does, I don't have it. So that's pretty much the stock detectability, 13.4, and that 13.4 kilometers again plays into the fact that you don't want to be in close with the vessel. You don't want to be in there, right? If you are the first person spotted, you're probably going to be the first person to die, so you just don't want to get in there. Now you can see that I am using my torpedoes, right? I've got these islands to cover me from any fire coming in from the King George. If the King George decides to make a push through that little gap, I'm ready with my torpedoes. Doesn't look like the player is going to, but I believe I do end up firing off my torpedoes anyway, just because. But this is a dangerous situation for the Algiers, right? I am facing off against an enemy battleship, and it's a situation that really you probably don't want to find yourself in. This enemy battleship will obliterate us. Now, I do get lucky in that the enemy battleship is now going forward, so again, the island is going to provide me this little bit of cover. Plus, on top of that, the King George has already fired, right? So I know that I have a bit of time here before the reload. So I'm making a mistake. This is a mistake right now in the Algier. What I'm doing is I'm trying to fire my torpedoes at the Algier. Exactly what I just went on about to not do, right? And you can see that it'll happen to you anyway. It's something to keep in mind. It's not something that you're going to guarantee that you can't do, but it is something that you want to try and avoid. In this situation, I get lucky. But you can see, even in that quick little foray there with the King George, quarter of my health, maybe a little more, gone. Just gone. So if it wasn't for allies being around, being able to put a lot of damage into the King George, I would not be able to, I wouldn't be able to see the battle through. I'd actually be dead at this point in time, so it would really suck. So you do really want to be careful with this ship. Very, very careful. No armor whatsoever. She's not a close-in fighter. In fact, 9 kilometers for the torpedoes are a bit of a stretch at times, because frankly, if an enemy battleship is within 9 kilometers of you, you're probably going to have a bad day. Things aren't going so great. Now, again, in this situation, I'm using the terrain, right? I've got the mountain to cover me. I'm using my allies as well. Now, looking at who's targeting me, I know that I am being targeted by a few players. Battle is over, though, so I do end up surviving. And that's the key with the Algérie as well. If you can survive, you're going to end up doing a bit of damage. So 71,000 damage for the Algérie, not too bad. She's definitely capable of more, but this I found is kind of average for the ship, or average for me in this ship anyway. So not a bad game, and hopefully there was some tidbits of information, right? Play at range, make sure that you can still support your allies. Torpedoes are not offensive. The speed boost is great, but use it when the situation calls for it. No armor at all, so do not get in close. Just don't do it. Use your high explosive. Your high explosive is quite effective. It will, you will be pleasantly surprised anyway. So hopefully that is going to help. All of you who may be struggling with the Algérie or who are curious about the Algérie, that's what I found with her anyway. So, I mean, when battle is all over, said and done, not too bad of a game. You can see, though, that the Algérie does rely a lot on your team as well, right? If it wasn't for the team there, I would not have been able to claim victory on that battle. But anyway, victory is ours, and video is over. So leave any comments you have for me in the video comment section below. Love reading those, responding back to them. Hit the old like button if you did like today's video. Hit subscribe if you are not a subscriber. And as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.